Welcome to Accounting High.
Oftentimes we're having conversations with ourselves about what we're feeling, which is then causing us to feel it more. I am feeling anxious, and then you start feeling anxious about feeling anxious.
We're our own worst enemy, and it's that perfection is the enemy of good. It's like also the negative self-talk and the self-criticism.
So public speaking is apparently one of the things that most people don't ever want to do. I don't know how you feel about public speaking.
I like rapping. That's public speaking.
Welcome back to our class. It's the guide. Please take a seat. Step into this unique guidance session. Navigate with me. It's the capital S. Oh yes, I'm fresh. C-O-O-T. Y apostrophe O-K-R apostrophe. You see? Yeah, janitor Scott coming to you live from the closet with a bucket and a mop. So find a cozy spot. We all want financial freedom. A-C-C-O-U-N-T-I-N-G-H-I-G-H. Preach. Putting this course together. Sit back, relax, open your mind. Classes in session. Guidance class at Accounting High.
Introducing the star of our show,
Scotty and Ashley Francis.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Previously on Accounting High.
Just remember that you're bringing something to life
All right,
into the world.
we hit minute
Okay.
mark, so you can say everything you want about AI, kitchen table auto, and Jason and all the other fun stuff. We've exercised restraint.
Did we?
Up
Okay,
until this
great.
point. Yes.
I only want to talk about AI in the sense that the reason I think it's such an important technology for us as tax and accounting professionals is because it has the capability to fill in the blank, the skills, the knowledge that we have lacked in this profession. Like, we are not known to be a nurturing profession, but we still are humans, and we bring in young humans, and we need to nurture up our young humans so we don't leave them with residual trauma that maybe previous generations did. That's just like a kindness, right? We don't have to all be tough. We don't have to work until we die at our desk. That's a ridiculous expectation of any human. The reason I'm so excited about AI and automation is because it brings those capabilities to reality. You can today create a chatbot that will train your new staff in how to do something, and they can go back over and over and ask questions. When in the history of ever have new staff had access to that amount of support? Never.
When have we humans had access to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I see this technology and I see it in our profession and I see all of the ways that we're declining as a profession, that's why I get excited about it, because it can support the humans that are in this profession so they can go back to thriving. And when we thrive, when our staff thrives, our clients are happy and they thrive too. It's all connected.
Well, it's also exciting, and it's something new, and it's a shiny object. Very shiny. It's so shiny you can't avoid it. It's everywhere now.
It's so annoying how everywhere it is.
It's everywhere. And there were the people that have been consistently standing up and telling everybody. What do you call that? The person in the town square that's like...
Oh, the town crier?
Yeah, the town crier, crying out all the news. And everybody, that's how you would hear the news, right? That's how it was back in the day. Yeah. Nowadays, we have Twitter in the metaverse. As far as like being a speaker or being a course creator or being an accountant or an influencer or whatever other words that we want to throw out there, there's a lot of different hats. When you were a kid, you just wanted to be an accountant. Now, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be an accountant.
Teaching what you know is that whole next phase of life. So when I say what would you want to be when you grow up, AI is going to be the one that's teaching all of us at some point, right?
Right.
But you have to take that human element of it that you have, that you can bring forward. You're the conductor. It's like an interesting crossing point, especially for somebody like you that's intersecting all of it at the same time. Now you're in the cloud, literally and figuratively and metaphorically, right? You're in this cloud of like noise, and you have to clear that. And sometimes it takes tapping back in. So one thing that you've been doing and you've been very vocal about is focusing on your health, focusing on your habits, eating less sugar, exercising, meditating, and you're doing all those things consistently and you're doing them out loud and you're inspiring people too. So that's a whole other thing. You really are. And it's inspiring for me. I can say that. And I know other people are inspired by that as well because it's healthy habits and it makes you feel good. And so that's something that cloud is so cloudy and so static. You can't see through anything. You got to sit still and just meditate just for all of it to die down. And then you can see the path forward.
Yeah. I will say, so on that note, and I think this would be helpful for other people too, who are like, I want to start getting healthy, but I don't know what to do. Because you and I were talking about this. We talked about it Engage. And when we talked about it before then too.
We've had the same ongoing conversation for a few years now.
Yeah.
We just keep continuing it wherever we go.
We just but we've both evolved health-wise, I would say,
Absolutely.
in positive direction. What I've been wanting to do since June was cut out my caffeine, cut out my sugar, cut out all of these things
all of the inflammatory things.
But the things that cause anxiety in me. So sugar causes anxiety for me. Coffee causes anxiety for me. And when I'm anxious, I make decisions to get away from the anxiety, which isn't always the decision that's going to get me towards my goals. And it's actually typically gets me farther away from my goals. So the thing I started doing, and I called it the Mike Sylvester 12-week challenge, because when we got back from tax retreat this year, Mike Sylvester decided that he was going to start losing weight. And for anybody who doesn't know, Mike Sylvester is a guy on Twitter. And so what I did was...
They call him Boomer Mike sometimes too.
Do they? Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know. Mike's with a bunch of numbers after. That's his Twitter handle. Yeah.
I took just 4 goals that I wanted to do, and I broke them down over 3 weeks. So the first week, I always start with re-establishing my meditation practice, because that gives me at least a little bit of a pause before I go and do the thing that I'm trying to get away from. So I have meditated off and on for years now, but I started it out at the smallest increment. So the first week, all I had to do was 10 minutes of meditation a day. Anyone could do 10 minutes of meditation. Goes by so quickly. And the second week, 15 minutes. The third week, 20 minutes. And then I switched to the next goal, habit goal.
It's like another foundation. I've seen this chart too. I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, that to reduce coffee, right? But I'm still doing the meditation. What is happening, because I'm keeping it so focused and small and easy, other good habits are coming in and getting attracted, even though I'm not tracking them. I've started taking my vitamins. Yoga isn't even on this list. I've started doing my gratitude journaling again, even though that was supposed to come, in the third round. So all of it.
You're habit stacking too, and you're making it easy.
Stacking.
You're taking all of the fundamentals of habit creation and
Yep.
you're making them satisfying. You're making it so it's repeatable, and you're continuing to build on that. And then all of a sudden, you have created a new baseline for yourself.
Right. And what happens now is it's given me the space. I can't describe this space, but it's a space I didn't have before.
Clarity.
It's clarity, but it feels expansive. To re-examine my goals from a perspective of what actions can I take out of all of these things that I'm doing. What actions can I take that will serve this overarching goal that I have? One of the challenges that I have as a people pleaser is that, for the most part, a lot of my goals come from the perspective of making sure other people are okay, not starting with myself and making sure that I'm okay. So I set down 6 vision or goals or purposes that start from the perspective of making sure I'm okay first. And then everything else comes out of that. And so I look at it every day. I still automatically say yes to things that I should probably take a pause on.
But you're aware of it though.
But I'm aware of it.
And then you're working on improving it for the next time somebody asks you something. And so you'll recognize that instinct to say yes, or the instinct not to say no. That's the one thing too, is we're so afraid of saying no. I did a whole rap about it. I've performed it. I've talked about
love
it
that rap. I love it so
for
much.
so long, and it's still so hard for me. I still
Right.
have that problem. I still had every time an old client texts me, and not old client, or it's just somebody that I used to be deep in it in the firm, and it happened when I first got to Nashville. I had 2 clients text me, and then I don't know what to do. And then I always end up saying yes to whatever they ask. These are things that we all have to deal with, right? The things that happen in an everyday life of anybody. And I just can't say no sometimes. And so it's like, but it's not just people pleasing. I think it is people pleasing,
It is
right?
people pleasing. Yeah.
It's people pleasing.
It's not having, I think this is like something I'm like really exploring right now, is not having a sense of yourself and of what you want enough. And I see this in the context of like, there's a lot of overlap in building a firm too, where, you'll see folks complaining about their client behavior on Twitter. And part of me wonders, okay, yes, that's bad behavior. Did your client know 100% for sure that that was bad behavior, or did you assume that they knew because you haven't set your line down in the sand until somebody did something to cross it? So I see this happen with me a lot in my firm, that building out my sense of self will improve my firm and my practice. And so I had a super long conversation with ChatGPT over the weekend about how someone builds out their sense of self so that it's concrete and not shiftable.
So let's talk about that too, because ChatGPT has also become my source for all of these questions that I don't have anybody to ask, and I can't Google it. I can't Google it because you're not going to get a clear answer, but man, it's helped. It's been my personal therapist, educator, everything. And so I've got these threads of conversations that have helped me get out of my head too. How about that?
Oh, it's so remarkable. I mean, I've created chats not only for myself, but for other people, to have somebody to talk to if they're going through something and they didn't have access to a therapist. And
judgment free.
I can put in the dumbest questions. Like, I have this perception that as an adult, I should know all of the adult things about how to adult. And I don't want to ask Google because I don't want Google to judge me. But ChatGPT is so judgment free and so safe. And yeah, it sometimes over explains. So I do have to modify the prompt, but it gives me a starting point in so many ways in life, like mental health, emotional balance, how to change out plumbing fixture. And I think that the challenge is that in this age of information, we get so attracted to the volume of information that we sometimes forget that the action is sometimes more important than the information. So that's usually what, I like to add to my prompts to give me the top 3 action items and like concrete suggestions so that I'm not stunned into inactivity because of the amount of knowledge.
So that's also with habits and anything else. It's like learning the thing that you need to do, but not taking action and not doing it. It doesn't help you. All of that knowledge at our fingertips now. And we used to say that tongue in cheek, like we have all the knowledge at our fingertips because we can search the internet on our phones. But now it's different. Now we have ChatGPT on our phones, and we have the knowledge of the world up until December 2023 or whatever the cutoff date is, right?
I will say that it reminds me a lot of the early days of the internet, where you had these sections of like deep knowledge. And so you could go into the chat rooms of experts and have conversations with experts about a thing. And then the internet just exploded and everybody's all about SEO, and just so much garbage content is now out there. So it's almost like getting back to that beginning time where, well, even before the internet, like going way back to the beginning of like printed word, when they just like printed out flyers of the most important things you should know, right? Human brains weren't meant to process as much information as we see in a day. Like, that's not what these things are for. And so having something to pre-chew, like vast amounts of knowledge for us, that's so helpful and vital and important. But then to your point, like the action is the next step. I actually have a before step one of learning that I would love for accountants to like work on. And it is this mindset of everything needing to be perfect from day one. And it's something that I struggled with for, I want to say like, I was going to say how many years I've been alive, but we're just going to say I've just recently shifted this mindset. And it's very frustrating for high achieving folks who are expected in their profession to be perfect at everything instantly. And also, clients contact us and ask us questions on the fly as if we're some sort of tax Google, and we feel bad saying, I need to look that up, right? We're trained into this mindset already. But when we start building habits and we start learning new things and we start practicing part, we are going to flail and we're going to suck and we're not going to do a very good job and it's going to look like crap. And we're going to be, at least for me, I'm going to talk for myself. Like, I'm going to think this is what I will always be like. It will always look this terrible. And I can tell you, like, over this last 2 years of learning and growing, that's not true. Like, if you just kind of keep continuing putting a little bit of energy into all of these things, it gets better and better and more beautiful and more like you turn into an artisan of this particular thing as opposed to just a finger painter. But you have to be okay with starting out at finger painting.
Yeah. Well, just like that age old, like you got to be okay with being terrible at something and going through that phase. So
but
how
we're
is
so
your
bad
100
at being
videos?
terrible at it.
Yeah, how is your 100 videos going? You were going through the phase.
I think I'm up to, I stopped counting, but for the fact that I have like created 2 courses, well, the first course didn't have any videos in it, but the second course had videos and I've created videos for other things. I'm getting better. I haven't even done maybe 30 videos and I'm way better than I was at video 1 and way more comfortable. And I have like a little bit of a methodology now. If I put in consistent effort, I would be so much farther ahead.
But it's funny because I say this, your first ones were actually good.
Really?
Like you took for somebody's first videos, you were talking about the voiceover and you were doing things in there that were advanced skill level stuff. It wasn't bad. I was like, you're not going through a bad phase. You're just not giving any, like, you're talking about making the videos like really meta. It's like you're not giving any extra information outside of this, but this is really good information right here.
Oh, that's interesting. I think I'm much harder on myself than
Yeah, I think we
other
all
people.
are. Yeah, it didn't
Right.
suck. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely the case, and that's been the case with me, with my raps, or with anything else. Is we're our own worst enemy, and it's that perfection is the enemy of good.
Right.
But it's the fact that we don't think something is good. We don't even think it's any good at all, but it's good. Like that's we don't see that. And I think that's because it's like also the negative self-talk and the self-criticism.
Yeah.
We all go through it. We all go through it, especially in this first phase of like putting yourself out there, because that's hard, especially for somebody that's not as equipped to handle all these social situations. Now you're getting all this extra attention through Twitter and you're showing up at these conferences. I bet it feels different though when you're on stage and you have that, everything worked out and you know what you're going to say versus a situation where you're thrown in the middle and you have to mingle and talk to people.
Can I tell you something embarrassing? Can you be my ChatGPT? Okay.
Speak.
I was going to ask ChatGPT to create conversation cards for me, and I was going to practice them. So at XeroCon, they said I had between 15 to 20 minutes in my part of the conversation. So I broke down all of my responses into 3-minute increments, and then I practiced them for hours and hours. I'm still going to ask ChatGPT to create conversation cards for me, and I was going to do the same thing with them. And then the next step would be to ask it to create follow-up questions, like as if another person is asking me, and then having to practice my responses. And I would say it feels silly to say, but this is a skill that I really want, to be able to connect with people comfortably. And it's worth it to me to practice like this, because I want to be able to go into these situations and not have to go run and hide in my room because I don't know what to say and I'm feeling like socially anxious and awkward. So
How did that go? So you practiced it, and how did it go in real life?
I haven't done
You,
it yet.
oh,
I'm so
I thought,
scared of the
okay.
idea. I mean, XeroCon went amazing.
How did
It's
ZeroCon? Yeah,
just,
that's what I mean.
yeah, no, that,
That's the point. It went amazing, but you were well prepared and you
right,
practiced and you went through
right,
it and you
right.
got through it. I found that after, like, so for me it was similar situation. But I actually had to like memorize a rap and perform it, and it was the rehearsal. So the rehearsal day before, empty room, and I was just supposed to go through it once and talk about our step, where we were going to stand and what we were going to do. I had a complete breakdown panic attack. I couldn't even talk to anybody. I didn't even know what was
Really?
going on. And then I got out of it, but I had to practice it. I went through the rap like 6 times in a fully empty room. And I was tortured. I thought I was gonna be ridiculed. I didn't think anybody was gonna get into it. I thought people it was just a lot of
What?
anxiety and anxiousness
Yeah.
going through. But that was the day before. But it also pushed me to practice more and to prepare more, and it fueled the actual performance. Was epic. It worked out great, but I had to go through that too, and it's almost like the fact, like, I don't think a lot of people are going to go through conversation cards as many times as you did. But the fact that you did, you were more prepared for anything that potentially could have come up, that it made it easier for you and it went so much better that you over prepared, just like I did at the performance. I think that's something that's, some people have in them, and some people can just get up and just do it and just go
Oh,
talk to everybody.
yeah.
So I think it's something that we have to heal within ourselves. I think there's something that was broken in me, that I had that breakdown, that I still am working on fixing. I don't know what it is or why that happened, because I've performed enough times that I shouldn't have had that breakdown, but I couldn't prevent it.
Can I
Nothing I could have
reframe?
done.
Can I reframe?
Sure, please.
Okay. Nothing is broken about you. You
Okay.
are perfectly wonderful as you are. Someone has pre-trained beliefs in you that you have to work to reframe and not have as big of an impact. But you as you are not broken at all. And you don't need to be fixed. You just have a hidden, like, pre-training, someone stuck in there that you just need to find and work out, like a muscle cramp, right? You don't think of like
That's
getting a muscle cramp as if you're broken. You're like, oh, I need to work that out.
that's the lesson right there. That's the story. So it's reframing things and using the words. So it's like, I call this anxiety, and I know this. I can reframe it to excitement, and I can change
Yes.
that feeling and that torture that I put myself through. I could have just said, I'm hyped up. Tomorrow's going to be dope. I'm excited. And I could have amped it up in a good way, but instead I let it turn downward.
I'm currently going through, so the meditation series that I'm going through is around stress. And like the past couple of days, he's been talking about, oftentimes we're having conversations with ourselves about what we're feeling, which is then causing us to feel it more, because we're having these conversations with ourselves about, like, I'm feeling anxious, and then you start feeling anxious about feeling anxious. So public speaking is apparently one of the things that most people don't ever want to do. I don't know how you feel about public speaking.
I like rapping. That's public speaking.
Yeah.
Public
Do you get
speaking was always
nervous on
something.
stage though, like usually?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sweating just thinking about it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So my first public speaking gig was May of 2023. So just last year, my first ever public speaking. I was prepared, but I went in there, and as I was driving in, I always like listen to songs that I can sing to, like, really, like, for example, Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell. Like, there is some long breath work in that song. But the other thing that I was thinking as I was going in was like, these people are all friends. I just don't know them yet. And I'm only the vehicle for transmitting this information. None of it has to do with me. And I got up and did this presentation. And so I had a different speaking coach at the time. And I said to her, what if I get a heckler? She's like, nobody will heckle. Nobody ever heckles. I got a heckler because, tax. And it was fine. I was like, I just asked him to, I just kind of cut him off and said, we'll talk later. And then my AV didn't work too. My video didn't work. And it was fine. So because I was in a room of friends I just hadn't met yet. So that's kind of how, when I go into a speaking engagement, that's kind of how I think about it. And it changes like the whole vibe. I'm
Same
never
thing.
nervous.
So it's similar, and I know why I get in my head, and I can look back on it and reflect on it and say I make it about me, and it's not about me. And that's why I get nervous sometimes, or that's why I feel like I'm not going to perform, or people are going to ridicule me because it's not about me. But the day of, I knew this was about Xero. Like the rap that I did, none of it, I'm not referring to about myself at all, and that's what relaxed me. It's not about me, so I'm not going to be ridiculed. Nobody's going to, and so then I was able to be free from all of that and then be in the moment.
Yeah.
But that's when you realize that it isn't about you, then you're free. That was something else that I've learned. This has been awesome. Ashley, thank you for coming on with me at Accounting High.
Thanks
for the second
asking
time.
Me.
We're all going through it. I think everybody has everything that we've kind of touched on and threaded throughout this conversation. People have dealt with, and you're not alone. And that's how you have become very relatable and the hero on Twitter sometimes. Remember that time when you had that post and all the guys are coming to you, and like you get very, very vulnerable on there, but you let other people know that that's normal, and it's okay to feel like this. And you're just okay being vulnerable and letting yourself go out there. So that's another thing I wanted
We're
to
all
make sure.
human, right?
Yeah. So give us one last piece of advice.
Piece of advice. My number one piece of advice is, I guess it'd be the number one piece of advice I'd give for myself, is to start meditating. And if you don't feel like you can meditate because you have anxiety or your brain reacts negatively to meditation, find a moving meditation, because that will be your foundation for finding the rest of your peace. And when you find the rest of your peace, then decisions that you make for yourself will all come from a good place.
Fantastic. Class dismissed.
Accounting High. Why am I so busy? Why did I say maybe? Nah. Let's have a discussion. Let's start a discussion. Say no when you're uncertain. Saying yes leads to future burden. Next request, deploy a diversion. Discretion, avoid overexertion. Unclear, meek, prone to frustration. Fear of being alone and forsaken. Career in a unique situation. Appear weak with no aspirations. Fearly insecure, wreaking mayhem. Why am I so busy? Why did I say maybe? I'm starting to worry, my calendar is crazy. Now I'm getting nervous, still trying to be perfect. Work hard and determined, it's safe to say I learned to say no. Nah, dismiss the need to please and say no. Matter of fact, ain't leading to your goals, just say no. Next request you get with no regret, just say no. Next inquiry, please don't be upset, just say no. I float in the shallow, cast no shadow, flow with no hope. With no legs to stand, like I had no plans, would never say no. Reflect the regrets, it was out of control. For fear of rejection and being alone, I used to know nothing like Jon Snow and Thrones. Said yes, my to-dos postponed. People please like my own needs unknown. Acquiesce, no protest, not even a groan. I said yes to everything, geez, clone me to avoid feeling lonely. Say no so I can go full send like Roman. These words flow stronger on podcasts if spoken. No longer insecure, no longer broken. Okay, rapper, I'm never gonna be hopeless. Found my shadow in the depths of the ocean. Now say no if it's not a faux show or a hell yes. Exclamation mark. Why am I so busy? Why did I say maybe? I'm I'm starting to worry, my calendar is crazy. Now I'm getting nervous, still trying to be perfect. Work hard and determined, it's safe to say I learned to say no. Nah, dismiss the need to please and say no. Matter of fact, ain't leading to your goals, just say no. Next request you get with no regret, just say no. Next inquiry, please don't be upset, just say no.